Hi guys, it's Barb with Halfway to Sane. Welcome to our channel. And today we are going to, or I should say I am going to talk about a pretty serious subject. So I'd like to put out a warning or a trigger warning that if you have any issues with any kind of abuse, sexual abuse or molestation, please do not watch this video. I would hate to have triggered you in some way, fashion or form. Just click off the video now, because I'm going to be going over that topic and how it pertains to me. So with that being said, I want to go over what is molestation. And molestation is a sexual act or abuse of a person. It's the action of pestering or harassing someone in an aggressive or persistent manner. Molestation involves a sexual act, which could be rape, but it doesn't have to be, with someone beneath the age of legal consent, so under age 18. Both rape and molestation are crimes, and they are extremely traumatizing. Rape is a forcible sexual intercourse, often under threat of physical injury. Sexual abuse is any type of sexual activity done against your will. It can be violent or non-violent, non-touching sexual exposure, like being forced to look at sexual pictures or videos. So sexual assault can be verbal or visual, or anything that forces a person to join in unwanted sexual contact or attention. Most sexual abusers are known by the victim. So what are the effects of sexual abuse to the child or person? I guess I should have specified this was oftentimes in younger people, children. So they would have low self-esteem. What is low self-esteem? Low self-esteem is a thinking disorder in which an individual views themselves as inadequate, unlovable, and or incompetent. They would have feelings of worthlessness. Worthlessness is a strong feeling that can lead to suicide in depressed people. If they don't receive help they need and deserve, this occurs when they have many setbacks in their life, like not liking how they look. If you're older and it's financial issues, divorce, and they think there's no meaning in their life. They could suffer from social anxiety. And what is social anxiety? It's the fear of being judged and evaluated negatively by other people, leading to feelings of inadequacy, inferiority, self-consciousness, embarrassment, humiliation, and depression. They could suffer from generalized anxiety disorder. What is that? It's a chronic state of severe worry and tension. The person worries excessively about health, family, money, and so on and so on. People with generalized anxiety disorder cannot shake the worries. They may be unable to relax and have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep. They have physical symptoms like trembling, twitching, muscle tension, headaches, irritability, sweating, hot flashes, feeling lightheaded. They may always feel tired and have trouble concentrating, and they may suffer from depression. So what is depression? Depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. Common symptoms are sadness, tiredness, unhappiness, trouble focusing or concentrating, anger, irritability, frustration. They could have sleep issues, no energy, anxiety, isolation, loss of interest in activities. If this is something that happened to you as a child, you could have lack of trust in adults. And that would be the environment in which you are raised and plays a big part in how you trust other people. Being raised in a mistrustful environment can result in a lack of trust later in life. Traumatic events affect your ability to trust. You could suffer from agoraphobia, which is an anxiety disorder characterized by a fear of certain places and situations that the person believes is difficult to escape from, such as open spaces or public transportation. You can't go anywhere alone. You avoid certain situations. You're always looking for an escape route. You have panic attacks. So what's a panic attack? Panic attack is a sudden episode of intense fear that triggers severe physical reactions when there is no real danger. When a panic attack occurs, you may think you are losing control or having a heart attack. You may develop eating disorders like anorexia or bulimia. What are those? What is anorexia? Anorexia is an eating disorder characterized by low weight, food restriction, fear of gaining weight, and strong disorder to be thin. What is bulimia? Well, bulimia is an eating disorder characterized by binge eating followed by purging. Binge eating refers to eating large amounts in a short period of time. Purging refers to the attempts to get rid of the food consumed. This may be done by vomiting or taking laxatives. They may turn to alcohol and or drugs to help cope with their pain and their fear and their anxiety. They may suffer from personality disorder. A personality disorder is a mental health disorder that impacts the way you think and feel about yourself. It includes self-images, difficulty managing emotions and behavior, and a pattern of unstable relationships. With borderline personality disorder, you have an intense fear of abandonment and instability. You may have difficulty tolerating being alone. You could suffer from PTSD. What's PTSD? It's post-traumatic stress syndrome, which is a mental health condition that is triggered by a terrifying event where you either experience it or witness it. Symptoms may include flashbacks, nightmares, and severe anxiety, as well as uncontrollable thoughts about the event. They could become suicidal. If you feel at any time that you have gotten to this point of being suicidal, please reach out for help. You can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. The number is 1-800-273-8255. Please call the number. If you feel like you have nobody else to talk to, nobody else will listen, please call the number. You are worth staying here. You are cared about and loved, no matter what you're thinking at this point. Somebody out there cares enough to save you. I want to move on to what if sexual abuse is from a parent or a step-parent? Well, as a child, we are supposed to be able to trust our parent or our parental figure. They are supposed to take care of us. and look out for our best interest and to protect us from harm. So the child's perception of safety is gone, diminished. And what if you are that person that is being molested? You need to tell someone, anyone. If you can't tell your other parent, tell a teacher, tell a friend's parent, tell another relative. Call 911. Do something. Do not let it happen. For instance, if you're in this situation where it's a male parental figure and you go and tell your mother, what should your mother do? Well, she needs to act on what the child tells her. She needs to act immediately. She needs to not dismiss it like it's nothing, because it is something. You need to keep your child away from the suspected abuser. Immediately keep the child away. You should report the concerns to the child's healthcare provider, the police, etc. You need to have that child seek help with a psychologist or psychiatrist or both. Now you ask, what does all of that have to do with me? Well, at this point in my life, I'm 50 years old, and I've had a lot of mental trauma. I've dealt with a lot of molestation and sexual abuse, starting at the time of 5 or 6 years old. At that time, my female parental figure had a man move in to our home. And that man had 2 boys, one of which was my age, and the other was 3 years older than me. From the time I was 5 or 6 years old, that older boy continually tried to molest me. I don't know what was going on at the home that he lived in permanently, what happened to him, or what he's seen, or what he thought, or I have no idea. All I know is from the time I was 5 or 6 years old to the time I was 12 years old, he continually, every single weekend they were over, he continually tried to push himself on me. He continually exposed himself to me. He continually tried to get me to touch him. When I was 10 years old, he attempted to rape me, at which his other brother walked in and caught the act and stopped it, to which I was very thankful. But that abuse continued for another 2 years, right under our parental figure's nose. When I was about 8 years old, I was at my grandmother's house, and there was a girl that lived next door who continually picked on me. And one day, she asked if she could come into my grandmother's house, and she had me sneak down in the basement. And this was a teenage girl, and again, I was about 8. And she did many things to me down in that basement that I didn't like, I wasn't consenting to. And thankfully, somebody realized we were down in the basement and was able to stop it. I never told anybody about that girl. But I did tell about the male parental figure's son. I told when I was 12 years old, and he got yelled at, got a spanking, something. I was never asked if I was okay. I was never asked exactly what he did to me. I was never gotten help, no psychological help, no counseling. He was never gotten help to find out why he was doing those things. Then, when I was 9 years old, we used to visit a family friend every year. They had a hunting cabin. And for some reason, the male figure had me following him up and down the stairs this one particular day. He would have me follow up the steps and sit there while he would go into his dark bedroom for a few minutes. And then he would come out and we'd go back downstairs. And that happened approximately 4 or 5 times. When on the last time, he had me sit in a certain position at the top of the stairs while he went into that dark bedroom and turned the light on and showed himself to me masturbating. Well, I quickly went downstairs and didn't tell anybody because I was always afraid of confrontation, and I was always afraid I'd be told I was lying, so I never told. Then one day when I was about 12 years old, I was walking home from school, and there was a car I noticed that kept following me or circling around me. And after about the 3rd or 4th time of the car going around, he finally met up with me at a corner street, to which he was undressed from the bottom down, masturbating in his car. And I quickly crossed the street and ran home. I didn't look at what the guy really looked like. I didn't look at the car. I didn't go home and tell anybody. I felt like the whole world was out to get me. They were against me. There was some reason that these things kept happening to me. And to make things worse, the male parental figure in the home, I dealt with molestation from him, even after I told him what his son was doing. He was doing those same things to me. I dealt with that from the time I was about 11 years old until I was 14. When I was 14, I got up the nerve to tell a teacher, and the teacher didn't know what to do. So she took me down to my counselor's office and told the counselor. And the counselor said she would have to call social services to let them know, and I freaked out. I was terrified of seeing my female parental figure. I was terrified to see her. I didn't know if I would be believed. I didn't know if I'd get a beating. I didn't know if I'd be screamed and hollered at. I didn't know if I'd be grounded for life. I didn't know what would happen. And she agreed not to call, which was the wrong thing to do. As an adult and as a school official, that call should have been made no matter what I said. Well, there was one day when I was about 14 that I had come home from school and I heard my 2 parental figures talking, and I could tell that I was in trouble about something. So that night before I went to bed, I confronted my female parental figure and asked her to tell me why I was in trouble. And she basically told me that I should tell her what I did. I had automatically assumed that the counselor had called her and told her everything that I had said. So I very quickly just blurted it all out. And I felt a sense of relief because I felt she now knows and she'll do something about the situation. She never looked me in the eye. She never asked me if I was okay. She never asked me exactly what had been done. She asked me if I told anybody. And once I realized that she hadn't been told from the school counselor, I just said, no, I didn't tell anybody. And she said, good. Go up to your room. Never tell anybody. And pretend like it didn't happen. So she never looked out for me. I had begged her many, many times to please leave that house. I didn't want to be there anymore. And she told me she was not willing to leave because she didn't want to give up her home, the camper that we had, the new car, and the swimming pool. She wanted to keep all those possessions that she cared about more than she cared about me. To make matters worse, when I became an adult and I was going through divorce, I had to ask these parental figures if I could stay under their roof for a little while. And she was addicted to talk shows that dealt with children being sexually abused and the offenders being screamed at and hollered at and told they were no good and, the police were going to be outside waiting for them. And she would sit there and watch these shows while I was in the room and tell me how those pedophiles needed to be strung up by their male parts and castrated, and just would have all kinds of things to say. Those people deserve to be punished because those kids didn't deserve to have that happen to. But she didn't feel that way about me. And she was still living with that male figure. He was never punished. He was never made to make it right. He never got help. I certainly was not offered help because I was told to forget about it and pretend like it didn't happen. And I tried to do that my whole life. And it doesn't work. All those things that I read to you about depression and anxiety and PTSD and being suicidal, that's been my life. I take many medications. I continue Sorry, my dogs were scratching at the door. I continue to be in treatment that I sought out for myself for the past 11 years. And I will continue to do that until I feel and believe that none of it had to do with me. But you need to know that you deserve help. You need to know it's not your fault. You need to reach out to somebody, anybody. And if that first person doesn't listen, you tell somebody else, and you keep telling somebody until somebody listens to you and somebody does something about it and somebody fights for you because you are worth it. Don't ever think otherwise. You are worth it. You are loved by somebody. Don't give up. please do not give up. That's all I have to talk about today. I'll see you in the next video.